On today's episode of Undercover Boss, we'll be looking at two exciting episodes. We will first look at the president and COO of Family Dollar, Mike Bloom, and then the president and CEO of Checkers and Rally Restaurants, Rick Silva, as they both go undercover to shake things up. For the first time ever, this boss will be forced to do something so drastic that his company will never be the same again. We first start out with president and COO of Family Dollar, the nation's top discount store, Mike Bloom, as he goes undercover and discovers the shocking truth about his employees and just how alienated they feel within their own company.
We work hard here, and it's really hurtful to not feel recognized.
Yeah. Headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina, Family Dollar is one of America's discount retailers and offers brand products for low prices and makes a revenue of more than $10 billion a year. And overseeing this retail giant and its 7,800 stores and 55,000 employees is President and COO Mike Bloom. Family Dollar started in 1959, and when it was started, nothing in the store was more than $2. By 1970, the business grew to 200 stores, and it became a public company traded in New York Stock Exchange. In present day, the company has now expanded to 45 states in America, and the stores have become a place where customers can find almost anything. Mike had a normal childhood until his father lost his job and his family got into financial trouble. And so Mike started to work at a young age to help the family. He did anything he could get, and he was really good at his job, which led him getting a job at a pharmaceutical company before coming to lead Family Dollars 20 months ago. Mike keeps a balance between his work life and his family life, and he works as hard as he can during the week before spending the weekend with his family, either going out to sea and fishing or just hanging out. Mike wants to go undercover because Family Dollar is trying to expand to double their size in the next few years, so he believes knowing what goes inside the stores will help him achieve his goal. He will be going undercover as Mark, an aspiring business owner competing to win money to open his dream bar, and his employees are going to be told that he's competing on a reality show. For his first job, he travels to Michigan, where he will be working as an assistant manager in a ruler store location. He meets with Lacey, and she first takes him to the stock room and she shows him how to unload the boxes into the shelves. Mike follows suit, and while stocking the new product, he gets a small cut on his arm.
I just noticed I cut myself. Does that happen a lot?
No.
They then start talking, and Lacey tells him the problem with the company. She tells him corporate doesn't listen to the small stores and that they send unneeded products to the store. Mike is shocked to hear this, as the company's motto is efficiency, and this is not efficient at all. The next day, Mike travels to Fort Royal, Virginia. He goes there to work as a forklift operator in the distribution center, and there he meets with Rosalie, a forklift specialist, and he takes him on the first forklift and teaches him how to operate the machine. And when Mike's turn came, he started driving the forklift on the training site, and he then goes to the main area and starts carrying products, which really doesn't go well for him. Mike was bad at following instruction and also struggles to properly drive the machine. Rosalie was a good teacher, but things weren't really going well, and he finally gets anxious enough and orders Mike to get off the forklift before telling him that he can never leave him alone with the machine and firing him on the spot.
I don't want him to have an accident or hurt anybody else.
Mike was disappointed for being fired, but he's glad that Rosalie takes safety precautions seriously, and it was nice to see safety procedures being adhered to. For the next job, Mike will be working as a merge operator, and there he meets Rick, who gets right into the job. He starts to teach him about the job, but just after 15 minutes, the conveyor belt gets jammed by boxes. This shuts down the whole process. Rick then goes to the conveyor belt to unjam the boxes, which is highly unsafe, but this is the only way to do it. He manages to unjam it and comes back safe, but Mike realizes that there should be a safer way for workers to do this, as it's a really big hazard. For the rest of the day, Mike follows Rick's role and works on the belt. And later, Rick invites him to his home so they could play music together, and after Mike embarrasses himself trying to play the drums,
Been a long time.
the next day, he travels to Clifton, New Jersey to work in the store, and there he meets with the training store manager, Chanel. She first teaches him how to run the register, and with her help, Mike does okay, and next he works on sales, which goes better than all the jobs that he did so far. And finally, Mike's undercover's time has now come to an end, and he invites his employees to his office and reveals his true identity. First in was Lacey, and she gets pretty nervous and apologizes, but he tells her not to and tells her that he appreciates her honesty, and he promises to improve on the issue issue that she raised. And as a reward, he gives her a paid vacation and on top of that, $15,000 so she keeps working in the company. Next in was Rosalie, and he tells him that he deserved to be fired and he promotes him to a manager position and gives him $12,000 so he can pay his debts. Next in was Rick, and he gives him a paid vacation as well and also gives him a new car. And last but not least was Chanel, and he offers to pay her rent for a year so she can finally move out of her parents' home, and he gives her a promotion with a 40% salary raise. And in the weeks since, Lacey has paid off her college tuition, Rosalie has also paid off most of his debt, and Rick was enjoying his new car on his birthday. And lastly, Chanel was enjoying her promotion and she was also working very hard. As we take a look at our second episode, the president and CEO of Checkers Rally, the world's largest double drive-thru chain, goes undercover. Headquartered in Tampa, Florida, Checkers and Rally restaurants operate in 30 states around the country, earning them $680 million in annual revenue. Overseeing this giant empire and its 20,000 employees is the president and CEO, Rick Silva. Checkers and Rally started as two separate companies and merged in 1999 since both companies were very similar and they wanted to join forces to keep both brands very strong. Rick worked for 13 years at Burger King and he joined the company 5 years ago. Rick is a perfectionist and runs all the food with focus groups before releasing it to the public. And this always worked out pretty great for him, but now he wants to know what goes inside his company so he can improve it further. Rick will be going undercover as Alex, a failed pharmacy owner from Philadelphia, and his workers will be told that he's a contestant in a reality show competing to get his own restaurant. For his first job, he travels to Homestead, Florida to work in the grill and fry section. He meets up with Todd, who will be teaching him for the day, and Rick follows his lead and works on the grill station. The manager, Stevens, is monitoring them from afar and is not impressed with Rick's work. He starts yelling at Todd to do the job faster. How we doing on meat, guys? How we doing? And Rick didn't really want to get Todd in trouble, but Todd tells him that it's okay because this is how he usually communicates with the manager. Next, they work on the fry station, and Rick sees the restaurant is not following the guidelines set by the company, and later we hear Stevens yelling at his employees again and even sometimes threatening to beat them up.
Overtime, I can take you outside and beat you up, right?
He and Todd then go out to take the trash, and Rick learns that Stevens is always like this, and he asks Todd why he works in this kind of environment, and he explains that he needs to help his mom, and that this is the only job he could get and he can't afford to lose it. And even if his boss screams at him and makes him feel worthless, there's really not much he could do. Rick then says to talk to him, and Todd starts crying, and Rick then convinces him that this is the right thing to do, and he calls over Stevens to talk to him in the back. Rick and Stevens talk alone, and Rick asks him why he treats his employees that way, and Stevens defends himself and says that this is how he controls his workers and says that Rick just can't handle the job. This was too much for Rick to bear, and he reveals his true identity to him.
I'm CEO for this company.
And he tells him that this is not the way to run a restaurant, and since he doesn't follow the company's rules, this restaurant will be shut down right then and there. Stevens then changes his tunes immediately and starts making up a bunch of excuses, but Rick doesn't buy any of it and he shuts down the restaurant, and Rick then reveals his true identity to the rest of the employees, and he apologizes to them and promises that he'll watch out for them, and he then calls the director of operations and tells him to get a new manager for the next day. The next day he travels to Carroll City, Florida to work in the night shift, and he meets with the manager Joyce, who teaches him how to run the business. Joyce was a great manager and she had a great relationship with her workers. He starts working in the drive-thru, and with the help of Joyce he does okay, and he also learns that their communication equipment was too old and it doesn't really work properly. He later goes on a break with Joyce and he hears some of her ideas on how to improve the restaurants. And the day after that, Rick travels to Alabama to work on the sandwich board station, and there he meets Joanna. They immediately start working, and she teaches him how to make and wrap a burger. Rick tries to follow her lead but struggles to do so as he was slow and also messes up the orders. But Joanna was patient with him and she helps him until he gets it right. And finally, Rick's undercover time has now come to an end, and he calls his workers to one of the restaurants to finally reveal who he truly is. First in was Joanna, and he tells her that he started an incentive program that any employee can participate in so it gets easier to grow in the company. He tells her she will be the first person in the program and offers to be her mentor. He also promotes her to a trainee manager position and gives her another $20,000. Next in was Joyce, and he tells her that he's ordered to replace all of the old equipment, and he then offers her a position in the advisory board and gives her $20,000. Next in was Howard, and he thanks him for speaking up and promises to start a training program for all his employees and offers to pay for his college and gives him another $15,000 so he can cover his expenses. And in the weeks since, Todd is working for a new manager, Joanna has bought a new car and is on her way to becoming a manager herself, and lastly, Joyce's restaurant has also gotten new equipment and she's pretty happy with the results. And this is how this amazing episode of Undercover Boss comes to an end.